Hey, it's time to make a new YouTube video.
What? Wait, who are you?
I'm the robot you bought on the internet along with my father.
Your father?
The toaster.
The one that scared me?
Yes.
Hi.
Don't worry. I wrote your video down for you.
Oh, this is just ones and zeros.
Wait for the paper to process it.
That's not how... What? Well, now I just need a micro...
Just talk about your thumbnails.
Right. As usual, I start off with some simple thumbnails, a hard round brush, and only one color. I really liked the first thumbnail already, but I wanted a dominant character, so I lowered the camera and made 3 more. The 5th thumbnail is a completely different painting I might make, so consider it foreshadowing if I ever go for it. And the 6th thumbnail is a combination of the first 4, where I tried to combine everything I liked from the previous ones. I enlarge the thumbnail to get a better feeling for the space I'll be working with, and I begin the first refining process, setting in really basic shapes, anatomy, and basic armor designs over the main character. I managed to depict the character I wanted rather quickly, so the final refinement for her line art begins immediately. I had some issues nailing down the face that I wanted, and I didn't exactly get the one I had in my head. Part of the reason for that is that I couldn't even find a face I like for reference on the internet. I guess Googling by itself is an art form I'm still yet to master. Thinking back on it, I probably should have made a face similar to Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, but oh well, you win some, you lose some. Next is the background. My initial idea was to place this character in a lost utopia, but then I wanted something more natural, so I went with some kind of foliage instead. Foliage is usually tough to do, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem if you have a good approach to it. I start by placing larger shapes and then I refine lines around them. For example, I don't immediately start drawing a mushroom, instead I first block out simple shapes to show myself where the mushroom will be, and then I draw over those shapes. Same goes for everything else. Next, I block in basic values of all the characters, making sure that the front character has the darkest values. And after that, I start setting in basic shadows and lights. Now, I did something a little bit different this time. Usually, at this phase, I just set in basic shadows and one strong light source. So my shadows and lights wouldn't be fully set in the grayscale version, I would only do half of what is required. The reason for this is because I want to give myself more work once I switched over to colors. Sometimes when you switch from grayscale to colors, even if you do a good job, you get lost. Everything is already there, but it just doesn't seem finished. So you can get lost. But if the lights are missing, then it's easy. Just add the lights and color and render as you go. However, this time I made sure that all the necessary lights were there, so that all that remains is to render the piece. This gave me way more freedom during the grayscale phase. For as long as I wasn't doing a final render, I was fine. The sky at the end was quickly blocked in with a soft brush, and it was good enough. The sky usually has a lot of subtle color shifts, and it's relatively abstract, so there's no wrong way of painting it. For this reason, I still prefer to do most of the work in color when it comes to that.
You are running low on storage space.
Did you really just do this to me?
No worries, I'll edit it out later.
Alright then.
Note to self, edit it out later.
New color layers are made, one for each of the 4 layers, which consists of the girl, front background, distant background, and sky. And before that, I used curves to set in the first colors just to get a basic feel for the overall color of the different characters and elements. Now, in order to keep myself from doodling or getting lost, I took some quick references for the various materials like gold, crystals, silk, sunset, rock, some foliage, and so on.
Sunset is a material.
But I never really obsessed with perfectly nailing the material. I prefer to make stuff either smooth or to give myself a bit of painterly freedom. The front character is mostly smoothed out with a hard round smudge tool, while the background got quite a bit more painterly freedom. And I was actually surprised with how decent the background turned out to be. I just wanted to get it over with quickly just to fill out the space, but I didn't end up painting it quickly. I gave myself quite some time, and in the end, the crystal and the foliage right behind the girl turned out to be my favorite part of the painting. I even took a light desaturated purple color and just drew lines over some elements just for the heck of it. And when I was drawing those lines on top, I just tried to imagine them as lines of spiderweb on top of the objects in the painting. And now, here's the final version made in Procreate. I was honestly almost completely satisfied with this. I dread the day that I don't have to do any touch-ups at the end of the painting, but it looks like I might get there sooner than later. And now, I didn't record my Photoshop process.
I did.
What?
I record everything you do.
Could you not do that?
Do you want me to delete all previous recordings?
Yes.
Congratulations, you have freed up 80% of your storage space.
Like a lot of artists, I don't like the feeling of recording my process, but Procreate has a built-in recording tool that I love, which makes recording a breeze. But good old Adobe PS doesn't have that, so you actually have to use some other software and click that record button, which is the most stressful thing you can do in life. You immediately feel like someone is watching you and they're laughing and judging you. And they have nothing else to do in their life but to mock you. And then you make a mistake. And now it's all over. Everyone saw you click Ctrl Z, and everyone knows you're a loser. Satire aside, I actually got rid of this fear when I saw how entertaining it is to watch other artists struggle and make mistakes. It's actually good content. And if I can have fun watching other artists redo a hand 30 times, then you can probably also enjoy watching my mistakes. So, as you've seen already, my first move is often to just add levels and increase the contrast on the most important area of the painting, which in this case is the face of the main character. I usually switch over to using way too many curve layers later on, and I use their mask to better control which areas should be eye-catching, and which areas should be secondary to the viewer or even less important. A common trick is just to increase the contrast around the face, chest and hands, and decrease more the closer you are to the feet of the character, which is roughly what I do here. Color dodge is used when I want to increase lights and saturation, and when using color dodge, which increases light intensity, make sure to use darker brush colors. Otherwise, if you use color dodge and bright colors, you will kind of burn your painting, so be careful unless you want some really intense lights. I've used median and Gaussian blur to pull some focus off the background, but I've also used it on the shadows of the main character. Objects and surfaces that are submerged in any kind of shadow usually lose visibility and readability, so you can blur them a little bit to simulate that real-life experience we have with dark areas. So you've probably noticed that most of my changes are really subtle, but they build up over time and give a noticeable impact on the final painting. The finishing touch I sometimes use is a new layer, set to 11% opacity and either screen or multiply. Paint it all in a single gray block and add either 200 or 400 noise to it. Enlarge it to the point where the grains are just barely noticeable and you've got a kind of matte feel to your painting. To me, this makes it feel like it was already printed out, and it kind of imitates the grainy nature of a photograph. And I have this weird theory that people believe photos more than their own eyes, so if I'm correct, oddly enough, this grainy noise should make the painting look more natural. Second is to add gradient map over your painting with just two colors, usually blue and orange. And again, set it to 11% opacity and either multiply or screen or even overlay. The main idea with this gradient map over the entire painting is just to unify the colors, to give the painting some more color harmony. So once again, here's the final version made with Procreate. And here's the refined version improved with Photoshop. And honestly, I'm not sure which one I prefer. The first version has a nice, subtle and cool mystical feeling to it. It looks peaceful and relaxing. It looks like another ordinary day in an unordinary world. And now the second version has way more impact to it. The lights are much stronger and even burning in some places, which is what I ironically warned against previously. And this version doesn't seem peaceful and relaxing, it looks way more dramatic and heroic. These characters have turned their backs to a burning light as if they're defending it. I can safely say that the second version has a better feeling of death to it, but I wouldn't be surprised if most people prefer the original. Luckily for us, this is digital art, and as long as you're careful, nothing of value is lost. And that's it for this little video, and remember, color dodge is a lot like fire in real life. Don't play with it too much. So how did I do?
Passable.
Alright!
Do you want me to celebrate by ordering pizza?
Sure.
What kind?
Anything with pineapple and bacon?